Alright, so we'll say good morning. Let's begin. Today's daf is Mem Vav 46. We are picking up on Mem Vav Amadala 46, a second line down from the top. Chutz Minada, we'll say our shir this morning is dedicated by Leon and Julia Shainman in honor of Saeed and Simhaken, official and Sonia Kozlovsky, on the occasion of the wedding of their children, Orly Haken to Daniel Rosenthal, Penina Kozlovsky to Yoey Schacht. May they build Batinam on the Yisrael. Mazel tov, mazel tov. So let's begin. Chutz min adam. So remember again, quoting over here from the Mishnah. So the Mishnah said that halacha lemaisa, when it comes to blood, consumption of blood, so one is not chayiv if one consumes blood. If one is not chayiv for nosar, nor is one chayiv for tumah. So the Gemara says, from where do we know this? Amar Ula said, Amar Kra, because the pasuk said, "Va'anina sativ lachem." The pasuk says, "I've given it to you. I've given it to you." Ultimately, again, shalachem yehei. It shall be for you. So, we'll say the Gemara is dashing over here. This pasuk is referring to blood. Ki nefesh habasar b'damu, because again, the soul of the animal is in the blood. Va'anina sativ lachem. I've given the blood to you. We'll say, given the blood to you. The Gemara is dashing to tell me, shalachem yehei. It's yours, i.e., that it is not subject to the laws of Me'ilah. Remember again, Me'ilah means inappropriate or illegal use of consecrated items for mundane purposes. So the pasuk Baidam says, "Shalachem ultimately it's for you," meaning not hektish, and therefore again not subject to Me'ilah. The Rabbi Shmuel Tana. So the yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel, they taught as follows: Amar Kra lechaper. The pasuk Baidam says, Rabbi Osai, that the job of dam, the role of blood is lechaper, is to provide atonement. Lechapar nasativ velo leme'ilah. I have given it to you for kapara purposes, but not for me'ilah purposes, i.e. that it affects kapara, but ultimately again does not pose a problem of me'ilah. Rabbi Yochanan says, I will say a third interpretation. Amar Kra, who? The pasuk by Dam says who? Who lifnei kapara kila achar kapara. The blood before kapara is the equivalent of the blood after kapara. Ma achar kapara, just like the blood after kapara, ain't bo me'ilah. So also that means after the blood, after the sacrificial service, is not subject to the laws of me'ilah. Why not? Because it has already served its sacrificial duty. Aflifnei kapara ain't bo me'ilah. So too again, before kapara, before the blood is actually used for the blood service, there is no me'ilah as well. So both sides, so three different interpretations, all pointing in the same direction, that blood is not subject to the laws of me'ilah. So it says the Gemara, one second, focusing on that last drasha. Ema la'achar kapara kilifnei kapara. Why not go ahead and say that blood after kapara, after used for atonement purposes, is the equivalent of blood before atonement purposes? Malifnei kapara yesh bo me'ilah. Both say just like before kapara is affected through the blood, there is me'ilah. The blood is subject to me'ilah. Af la'achar kapara yesh bo me'ilah. So too, even after kapara, the blood itself is subject to me'ilah. To which the Gemara says that can't be, and I'll tell you why. This is actually quite fascinating, because ein l'chad davar shena'ases mitzvaso u'mo'alin bo. There is no such thing as something whose mitzvah obligation has been performed through it and is still subject to me'ilah. So also remember again, let's analyze this for just a moment. So me'ilah means illegal use of something that is consecrated. The assumption is that the item is consecrated up until the point that it has served its particular sacrificial purpose or duty. Once that purpose or duty has been discharged, so b'pashtos, it's no longer subject to the laws of me'ilah. So therefore the assumption is, once blood has been used for whatever the sacrificial purpose is, it's done, it's discharged its obligation, it's been used to discharge the obligation, and therefore no longer subject to me'ilah. So the Gemara says, Ein l'chad davar shena'ases mitzvaso u'mo'alin bo. Generally we assume that once something has been used for its designated sacrificial mitzvah purpose, it is no longer subject to the laws of me'ilah. So the Gemara says, V'lo, is that true? Is that a true statement? V'hari trumas hadeshen. We'll say, what about trumas hadeshen? Now remember again, look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says trumas hadeshen. It's like, it's probably about 12 lines up from before the lines get wide. But trumas hadeshen. B'chol yom chote b'machta, v'torim es hadeshen melo hamachta mimena. So remember again, every morning, the first thing the Kohen does is he takes a shovel full of ash from the Mizbeach, the Tormes Hadesh V'lo Hamachta, Mimena V'nosim Mizracho Shel Kevesh. He puts it ultimately on the east side, or to the east side of the ramp. Kedichsiv V'samo, Mashmo Sham Genizasan, V'sham Nivla B'mkomon, Alma Aser Bahana. So we'll say, remember again, what's that ash? That ash is the ash from the leftover limbs and karbanos that are burnt over the course of the night. Yet the halacha is, even with that ash, you leave it by the east side of the ramp. And there was a miracle that ash was absorbed into the ground of the Beis Hamikdash. So we'll say, but the idea being is, what do you see? That even though now it's ash, which is clearly again after the sacrificial purpose has been served, yet what? Yet halacha l'maaseh is still asur ba'ana. So you see from here that even something that has had its avodah done, meaning even once kapara has been achieved, the object can still be subject to the laws of Me'ilah, to which the Gemara says, no. He says, Mishum David Shumas Hadeshen, Big Day Kuna Shnei Ksuvin Abayin Keachad. We'll say, it could be different. Shumas Hadeshen, as well as Big Day Kuna, are the exception. Now, Shnei Ksuvin Abayin Keachad means there are two instances which teach us the same halacha, and Shnei Ksuvin Abayin Keachad in Malamdin. Let's remember again, wherever the Torah teaches us a specific principle, but teaches the principle in two places, is to teach us that what? The principle dafka applies in these two places and not elsewhere. Look at Rashi, which is the moment Big Day Kuna. Rashi says, Arba begodim shekoin gadol nichnas ben lefnai v'lifnim. This refers to the four unique Kohanic garments that the Kohen Gadol enters in to the Kodesh HaKadoshim on Yom Kippur. We'll say the halacha is, once that clothing has been used for one avoda of Yom Kippur, it cannot be used again. In other words, you can't use it Yom Kippur to Yom Kippur. Once you use it, you have to go ahead and put it away. You have to go ahead and literally take the big day kahuna used in the avodah of Yom Kippur and put it in the gniza. You have to put it in shemis, you have to put it away. Which mostly tells me that what? Tells me that if somebody were to go ahead and use that big day kahuna after the avodah of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, it would be subject to Me'ilah. They'd be committing an act of Me'ilah. So we'll say, so what do you see from here? You see two examples of even after an item has been used to discharge its sacrificial purpose, it is still subject to the laws of Me'ilah. What are the two examples? Number one, Shumas Hadeshen. Number two, Big Day Kahuna. So the Gemara says, this is an example of Shnei Ksuvin Abayin Ke'echad. These are two specific examples where the Torah points out that even after something has been used for its ritual purpose, it is still subject to the laws of Me'ilah. Because the Torah states this principle twice, it's to teach me that this concept is limited to these two circumstances and is not to be used to create a principle in general. In general, we were saying that after something has been used for its particular intended sacrificial purpose, it is no longer subject to Me'ilah. There are two exceptions to this rule, Shumas Hadeshen and Big Day Kahuna. So the Gemara says, Hani Chalaman da Amar Vini Chamsham Melamed Shetu'un Geniza. So we'll say, so that makes sense according to the opinion who holds that by the begodim, by the clothing of the Kohen Gadol by Yom Kippur, when the pasuk says V'hinicham sham, you shall leave them there. What does that teach me? Melamed shetu'unin geniza. That teaches me that what? That halacha l'maisa, the clothing of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur require geniza. We'll say require being put away. Being literally geniza means being hidden away. In other words, that they are subject to the laws of Me'ilah, therefore again they must be hidden away after the avodah. El Rabbi Dosa da Amar Mutaros in the Kohen Hedyot. But according to Rabbi Dosa, who holds that no, in fact, the clothing of the Kohen Gadol used in the avodah of Yom Kippur is in fact usable by a Kohen Hedyot, a regular Kohen after Yom Kippur. So we'll say, this is actually quite interesting. So there's a machlokas. Everyone agrees, V'enicham sham means the clothing must be left there, which means that the clothing is set aside, the clothing of the Kohen Gadol that he uses on Yom Kippur is set aside for some level of non-use. The machlokas is what level of non-use. So the first opinion holds, V'enicham sham means the clothing must be put away in shemis, put away in geniza, and never used again for any kohanic sacrificial purpose. Rabbi Dosa says they can never be used for another Yom Kippur, but a regular Kohen could absolutely use them for the avodah on a different day. So I understand if you want to tell me that Trumas Hadeshen and Big Day Kun of Yom Kippur are Shnei Ksuvin Abayin Ke'echad, because those are two examples of even something post kapara that is subject to the laws of Me'ilah. But according to Rabbi Dosa, who holds that V'nicham Sham means you can't use the Kohanic clothing for Yom Kippur for Yom Kippur, but a regular Kohen Hedyo could absolutely use it, then my Ikala Meimar, then I will say, here's the question. The question then becomes is, I only then have one example of something which even after it's used for its sacrificial purpose is still subject to the laws of Me'ilah. What's that one thing? That's Trumas Hadeshen. Well, now that there's only one thing, I can't say Shnei Ksuvin Abayin Ke'echad Ein Malamdin. Maybe Trumas Hadeshen that creates a principle. Maybe it creates a klal. And maybe it tells me that all things, even after they have been used for their intended sacrificial purpose, are still in fact subject to the laws of Me'ilah. If that's the case, then maybe blood, even after kapara has been affected, should be subject to the laws of Me'ilah. To which the Gemara says, okay, don't worry. Mishum dahavi Trumas Hadeshen ve'egla arufa shnei ksuvin abayin ke'echad. So I'll say, so it could be, first of all, just so you should know, the way we paskin by Big Day Kun Rabose is according to the Rabbanon, meaning the halacha is that after clothing has been used by the Kohen Gadol for Yom Kippur, it's subject to Geniza. It cannot be used for anything afterwards, whether that's for a subsequent year's Yom Kippur avoda or even for the regular avoda of a Kohen Hedud. That's how he paskin. So the Gemara says, okay, even leaving aside Big Day Kuna, there's another pasuk, Egla Arufa. We will say that ultimately, again, Trumas Hadeshen and Egla Arufa are Shnei Ksuvin Abayin Ke'echad. Now, what's going on by Egla Arufa? Take a look at Rashi. It's the first white line in Rashi. Dichsiv v'arfu sharvos. Remember again, Egla Arufa. We find the corpse in between two cities. It's not. We don't know who killed the individual. So what happens? The elders of the closest city come out, take a calf, decapitate the calf, wash their hands over the calf, and say Yadenu lo shafchu dam zeh. We did not spill this blood. So Rashi says ve'egla rufa dichsiv va'arfu sham v'hai sham krayiseruhu lomar shetei sham kavurasa. So we'll say, interestingly enough, the pasuk says va'arfu sham. They will go ahead and decapitate the calf there. Now the word sham is extra. So the Gemara dashes that sham means sham shetei sham kavurasa. The decapitated calf must be buried in that place. To tell you that what I was saying, you cannot get any benefit from that calf. Now, here's what's interesting. After that calf has been decapitated, so we'll say, so what's effectively happened? The quote-unquote avoda, this is not of course sacrificial avoda, but the avoda has been done. I might have thought that what? After the avoda has been done, then what? Then the calf is no longer subject to any type of prohibition. Kamash malon, it is. Kamash on that even after it's been decapitated, ultimately again it is still subject to a prohibition of mundane use. So therefore the Gemara says, what do you see? Therefore you have Trumas Hadeshen and Egla Arufa are Shnei Ksuvin Haboin Ke'echad, are an example ultimately again of two psukim teaching me the same thing, namely that even in the aftermath of the particular avoda, the halacha is that these items still retain their I'm going to call it consecrated status, but you understand by Egla Rufa that term doesn't apply as much. So I will say the fact that the Torah tells me this concept in two circumstances tells you that it's dafka in these two circumstances and not in others in which it applies. To which the Gemara says, Hani chalman davar in malamdi. So we'll say all of this makes sense according to the opinion who says Shnei ksuvin haboin ka'echad ein malamdin. So then Rabbi said, then what? Then now I have two examples, Trumas Hadeshen, Egla Arufa, of items even after, maybe a little bit higher. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, for sure. Thank you. So we have two examples. Thank you, Zombie. So then we have two examples, ultimately again, of things even after they've gone ahead and been used. Even after they've been used. If you just put up to 69, it should kick off. So even after they've gone ahead and been used for their intended purpose, it takes. Yeah. So even after it's been used for its intended purpose, like how many Jews does it take to understand? Yeah, so even after it's been used for its intended purpose, so halacha l'maisa again, it still retains this status, and therefore again, I'm sorry. So both say so now if you hold shnei ksuvim abayim ke'echad in malamdin, so I have two examples ultimately again of items even after they've been used for their intended purposes that still retain their status, and therefore again that tells me these are the exceptions to the rule, not the rule itself. So the Gemara says, however, el lamanda amar malamdin ma'ikal neimar. But I will say, according to the opinion who says that even shnei ksuvin abayim ke'echad malamdin. So I will say, what is there to say? If that's the case, now that I have two examples of items, even after they have been used for their intended purposes, that are still subject to quote unquote some type of sacrificial, that still retains some type of identity. If that's the case, I will say, then I can create a principle from these two circumstances. And again, remember, all roads lead back to blood. If that's the case, then at the end of the day, even after kapara, the blood should be subject to megillah, to which the Gemara says, Treme ute ksivi. Most of the difference over here is that there are two mi'utin written in these particular circumstances. Rashi says, mi'ute ksivi, lomar she'in lameidin mehen. We'll say both of these psukim, by Egla Arufa, as well as by Trumas Hadeshen, both have exclusionary phrases associated with them. Because of that, Rabbosai, even if you don't subscribe to the principle of Shnei Ksuvin Haba'in Ke'echad Ein Malamdin, you still wouldn't learn out anything from here, because the Torah itself goes out of its way to say that these are exceptions. What does it say? Ksiv hacha. Kshacha ksiv ha'arufa, v'hasam ksiv vissamo. Also by Egla Arufa it says ha'arufa. Ha'arufa Rashi says means zu, v'lo alachares kazu. The halacha is that dafka applies to this one and not to the even if the calf has been decapitated, it is still prohibited from any kind of use, but that is unique to this. Furthermore, by Trumas Hadeshen it says vissamo. Midahavele lemichtav v'sam uksiv v'samo. Rashi says lezev v'lo la'acher. The fact that it says v'samo, you shall place this as opposed to v'sam, indicates to me that halacha l'maisa, the idea that the ash is still subject to some type of prohibition even after the avoda has been done, is unique ultimately again to the Trumas Hadeshen and doesn't apply in other circumstances. So the Gemara goes weiter. Utzlasa cry bedam lamali. But we'll say at the end of the day, why do I need three different psukim elos? Let's go back for just a moment. So we'll say, so now what we've ultimately shown is that whether you want to understand that a shnei ksuvin abayim ke'echad, or you want to understand ultimately again that what? That halacha l'maisa, Egla Arufa as well as Trumas Hadeshen both have a miyut. Either way, we see that under normal circumstances, things, once they've normally been used for their kapara purposes, do not retain their sacrificial identity in the aftermath. So now we go back for just a moment. Why do I need three different psukim by blood? The Gemara quoted three different psukim to tell me that blood is not subject to me'ilah. Why do I need three different psukim? So the Gemara says, L'me'ute me'ilah, minoser umituma. Because at the end of the day, each of those psukim teaches me something different. One pasuk teaches me that blood is not subject to me'ilah. One pasuk teaches me that blood is not subject to the laws of nosar, and one teaches me that blood is not subject to the laws of tumah, which means that if someone eats blood in a state of tumah, one would not be chayfa. Now you'd be chayf for eating blood, but you won't be chayf for eating something sacrificial in a state of tumah. Aval pigul lo tzarich kra. Rabbi said to tell me that the laws of pigul do not apply to blood. Ultimately, again, I don't need a pasuk. Why not? Visnan, because we'll say, we're experts on pigul already. Visnan, because we learned in the Mishnah, kol sheyish l'matirin bein la'adam bein l'mizbeach chayav and l'mishum pigul. As well, so when it comes to pigul, we already learned that anything that ultimately, again, has a matir, we'll say anything that has something else which permits it, is subject to the laws of pigul. Whether that matir is what permits it for consumption on the mizbeach, or which permits it for human consumption. In order to go ahead and be subject to the laws of pigul, you must have a matir. You must have something which permits you for consumption, carbonic consumption, human consumption. However, v'dam gufei matiru. Now, blood itself, remember, is the matir. Blood itself is that which permits the other parts of the carbon. So because blood itself is the matir, therefore what? Therefore, halacha l'maisa, it is not subject to the laws of Pigul. Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan says as follows. So we'll say, so now what we've just established is based on these three psukim. We now learn out that blood is not subject to the laws of Nosa, which means if you were to go ahead and eat leftover blood left past the time of its permitted sacrificial window, you're chayiv for eating blood, but you're not chayiv for eating Nosa. If you go ahead and you eat blood in a state of tumah, ultimately you're chayiv for eating blood, but not for eating something sacrificial in a state of tumah. And number three, if you eat sacrificial blood, you're chayiv for eating blood, but not chayiv for me'ilah. So the Gemara now goes weiter. But pigul, we already know it's not subject to. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, shlosha krisos b'shlamim lama. So we'll say Rabbi Yochanan says as follows. Why? If you look at Rashi, last Rashi on the daf, shlosha krisos, and more aleihim l'dorosechem, v'nefesh ashatochal basar, v'nefesh kisika b'chol tumas adam. Why is it that the Torah relates the concept of kares 3 times by shlamim? We'll say amud beis, mevav amud beis. So achos liklal. So we'll say ultimately again, one is to teach you that generally it applies to general items of hegdish. Va'achos leprat, and one ultimately to teach you that there's a kares prohibition ultimately by shlamim. Va'achos ledvarim she'inan ne'echalin, and one ultimately to teach me about a kares punishment even for inedible items. Now look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says ledvarim she'inan ne'echalin. It's the second Rashi on the daf, mem vav amud beis. Kigon itzim ulevona she'inam ru'uyin. Kigon itzim levona. We'll say, for example, if a person were to eat wood or were to eat levona, she'inan ru'uyin la'achila, that of course themselves are not normally fit for consumption. If one were to eat these items in a state of ritual purity, in other words, I'm tameh, and I eat these items, that I would be chayiv. We're going to expound on this in just a little bit. Well, Rabbi Shimon, back to the Gemara. Well, Rabbi Shimon, Damar Dvarim Shein Ne'acholin. Ein chayav on mishum tuma lesuyim. And Rabbi Shimon who holds that halacha lemaisa, you are not chayiv ultimately again for inedible items. Whereas if you eat something inedible in a state of tuma, you are not chayiv kares for that. So what does it come to include? So the Gemara says lasuye chatos hapnimios. What it comes to include? A chatos that's offered inside, where literally that's blood is offered inside. Sagadai tamina, I would have thought. Because I would have thought, since the laws of pigul are learned out from the context of shlamim, I might have thought that halacha lemaisa, one is only subject, or I should say, one is only chayiv for something. I should say, anything that is not offered up on the outer mizbeach, like shlamim, in chayiv ala mishum pigul, is not subject to the laws of pigul. So I would have thought because of that, mishum tuma nami lo lechayiv. I would have thought also said that because it's not subject to the laws of pigul, if it's not offered up on the outer mizbeach like a shlamim, therefore it should also not be subject to the laws of tuma. I.e., if you were to consume it in a state of ritual purity, you would be pater. Kamashon, that is not the case. Kamashon will say that even if Kamash Malan, that even though for pigul it has to conform ultimately again to a shlamim, but that does not apply to tuma. Good. Numi Rabbi Shimon mechayev eshedarko lechol. So also remember again, this is Rabbi Shimon from the Mishnah. So Rabbi Shimon said, Rabbi Shimon mechayev b'davar. I'm just reading to you from the Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon mechayev b'davar eshedarko lechol aval eitzim v'halavona v'aktoris in chayav l'mishum tuma. But Rabbi Shimon holds that you're only chayev if you eat something in a state of tuma, which is something that is edible. But if you eat something inedible in a state of tumah, then halacha l'maisa again, one would not be chayiv for tumas kodshim. Says the Gemara, Itmar Rabbi Yochanan v'Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yelaz, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina, Chad nehayzuz v'chad nehayzuz. So both say you have these two groups of rabbanim, Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yelaz, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina. One from this group and one from this group said together. In other words, that there were two groups. Each group made up of one of the people mentioned in each of the groups. Chadamer once said, Machlokes betumas basar. That the machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan is in a case where the actual item, the object is tameh. Basar, by the way, doesn't have to mean meat. Basar means in this context the object, because remember again, Rabbi Shimon made a statement that halacha lemaisa, again, if you eat something inedible in a state of tumah, ultimately again you're going to be pater. So the machlokes is betumas basar, when the object itself ultimately is tamei. Aval betumas haguf, but again I will say if the person is tamei, not the object, divrei hakol ino loke. Everyone agrees you don't get malchus. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Betumas basar, im achlan laitzim ulevona tmein loke, mishum lav. So we'll say, so the first approach is that what the machlokes Rabbi Shmuel Silber is when it's tumas basar, when the inedible object itself is tamei. Aval b'tumas haguf, Rashi says, ve'hin tohorin divrei hakol ino loke d'lo yisarbu. We'll say if the object itself is ritually pure, for example, the eitzim, the wood, the lavona is pure, but or I should say is tar, but the individual is tamei, then everyone agrees that what you don't get malchus. That's one opinion, or that's one group. The Chad Amar, the other group, says no. Ki machlokes bezu, af machlokes bezu, kach machlokes bezu. They say Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan argue in a case of tumas basar, where the object is tamei. They also argue in what? In the case of tumas guf, where the individual is tamei, but the object in question ultimately again is tahar. So my timer, what's the reason for this? Kevan de karina be. V'habasar asher yiga b'chol tamei, because we'll say once we could apply v'habasar asher yiga b'chol tamei, that if the meat will go ahead and touch anything that is tamei, karinan bei v'tumaso alav v'nichrasa. Then ultimately again we could apply the second pasuk as well. V'tumaso alav, if his tumah is upon him, and therefore will be subject to karis. Rav Tivyumi masni hachi. Suppose Rav Tivyumi had the gears as we just read it. Rav Kahana masni hachi, and Rav Kahana had a different version. He said, Chad mehaizuza v'chad mehaizuza asifa. Ultimately, again, we'll say that he in his version he had the same idea. One from this group, one from that group, referring to the two groups of Rabbanim that we just said before, and asifa, and they're really discussing the end of the Mishnah. Chad amar machlokes betumas haguf. One group said the machlokes of Rishon the Rabbanan is the case of tumas haguf, where the individual is tamei, but ultimately again the basar, the object is tar. Aval b'tumas basar, but if the object itself is tamei, divrei hakol loke. Everyone will agree that there are malchus. The Chad Amar, the other group said no. Ki machlokes bezu, kach machlokes bezu. That in fact again is machlokes in both cases, both of tumas basar as well as tumas guf. Amar Rava said, ki mach mistabra, ki ma'adamar ki machlokes bezu, kach machlokes bezu. So once Rava comes along and says, it appears most logical that the machlokes Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan is in both cases, namely whether the person is tamei and the object is tahor, or whether the object is tahor and the person is tamei. It's the same machlokes of the Rabbanan and Rabbi Shimon about whether or not there's malchus for consumption of an inedible object, whether the inedible object is tamei or whether the person is tamei. Why? My time. What's the reason for that? Kevan de lo karina be v'tumaso alav v'nichrasa lo karinan be v'abasar sheiga v'chol tamei lo yochal. Because I will say, once we're not going ahead and saying what? Kevan de lo karina be, once we're not applying to it the pasuk of v'tumaso alav v'nichrasa, then it makes sense that ultimately again we're not going to apply to it the pasuk of v'abasar sheiga v'chol tamei lo yochal. V'hamar mar v'abasar l'rabos eitzim u'levona. But 1 second, we said before that ultimately again the pasuk of v'habasar comes to include even inedible objects like the wood, like the lavona, lepos ba'alma. We'll say ultimately again that is only to passel the carbon. That's all. Look at Rashi, lepos ba'alma. Rashi says umayla d'rabbanan hi ukras machta ba'alma. We'll say this is simply again a rabbinic psul, but the pasuk itself is an asmachta. Fine. So we'll say, so ultimately again the Gemara ends off with the machlokes about what the machlokes of Shimon and the Rabbanan actually is. Good. Let's go back to Mishnah. We'll say, so here we come to a very interesting Mishnah regarding the different mindsets that a person has to have when offering a carbon. L'shim shisha devarim hazevach nizbach. Also, when offering a carbon, a person has to have in mind for 6 things. What are the 6 things? So the Gemara says, L'shem zevach, a person has to have in mind that he's offering the carbon for the sake of a carbon. I'm going to explain what these items mean. You guys have to have in mind that he's offering it up for a carbon. L'shem zoveach. He has to have in mind that he's offering it up for the particular owner of that carbon. L'shem Hashem has to be offered up for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. L'shem ishim, for the sake of the fires. L'shem reach, for the sake of the aroma. L'shem nichoach, for the sake of it being pleasing. V'achatas v'asham l'shem chet. And a chatas and a asham must be offered up for what purpose? For the purpose of atoning for a sin. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yossi, Af mi shalo haya b'libo l'shem echad mikol elu kasha. Rabbi Yossi says, even if he didn't have in mind for any of these things, the carbon is still kosher. Why? Shu Tanai Bezdin. Ultimately, I will say because it is a Tanai Bezdin. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi says, Af mishalo haya b'libo sheshachat stam kosher. Let's say even if a person does stam shchita, doesn't have in mind for anything in particular, he shechts with no mindset, so it's still going to be kosher. Rashi says, why should Tanai Bezdin? She yishchat stam kidarim perakamon hisnu Bezdin alemu lishmo dilma aslamim shlosha. So that's actually very interesting. The way you would think to read this statement of Rabbi Yossi is, even if he didn't have explicit intent, ultimately again for anything, nevertheless there's a Tanai Bezdin. Bezdin legislated that no intent is as if you have explicit intent. What we're going to actually see, Rabosai, is what Bezdin legislated was dafka not to have these things in mind, right? Don't have these things that the Mishnah just mentioned in mind, out of concern that if we tell people to have explicit intent, there is a greater probability of having the wrong intent. Instead, have general intent, and that will count ultimately as specific intent. We'll see it in the Gemara. Ultimately, again, because the machshava Rabosai goes after the person performing the avoda. Ultimately, again, the machshava Rabosai. Look at Rashi. Shene machshava haleches ela achar avoid hilchach. Yehav shlo l'shmo afagav de bailim amri l'shmo lav midihu de lav b'dido talia milsa k'dechsev hamakriv also lo yechashev. So we'll say because the intent, because the machshava ultimately is determined by the one doing the avoda. Therefore, again, we have to be very careful ultimately with the kavanah. So now let's analyze this. Ola, the shem ola. When the pasuk says that you offer up a carbon ola, what does that teach me? That teaches me ultimately that the carbon must be offered up the shem ola. What does that mean? La fuke the shem shlamim dilo. What says comes to teach me that what? That if you have a carbon ola, you can't offer it up the shem shlamim. Can't offer it up for a different carbon. Look at Rashi. Ola l'shem ola. Kra kadarsh ola isherech nichoach lashon. We'll say we're going to be dashing over here this pasuk of ola shall be offered up as an ola isha on the fires reach nichoach lashem, a pleasing aroma to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rashi says va'afa gavdala b'shchita ksiv. It's the first white line in Rashi. Ashkechan le b'shlamim gabe zvicha v'hekrev mizerach hashlam shetei zvicha l'shem shlamim. L'shem ishim, l'shem shem, v'haydina ketacha kra da ola mishafar. So we'll say, so watch this. Therefore, the first word the Gemara dashes is ola, which teaches you what? Then when shechting an ola, one must have in mind for ola, and not l'shem shlamim. Not l'shem shlamim. Ishim, we'll say, what does it mean that it has to be offered up? Now, ishim means what? For the fires. What does it mean it has to be offered up for the fires? L'shem ishim, the carbon has to be offered up for the fire. La fuke kibava dilo. And we'll say, this is to exclude the case of kibava. What does kibava mean? Look at Rashi. Third wide line in Rashi. La fuke kibava. Almanas la'aso so chatichos tzuluyos begechalim. We'll say, as opposed to going ahead and roasting the pieces of the carbon. He says, the idea is, so the isha also means that the carbon itself has to be fully burned on the mizbeach, as opposed to just roasting the pieces of the animal on the mizbeach. La fuki kibava delo. Reach, also what does it mean? Again, it has to be done as an aroma. The shem reach, that one has to burn the carbon, I will say, for the sake of creating an aroma. La fuke evarim shetzlaan vehe'alan delo. I will say, as opposed to what? It's actually very interesting. As opposed to going ahead and roasting the carbon outside of the mizbeach, and then it will be bringing it to burn on the mizbeach. The aroma is generated by the initial roasting of the animal, which tells you that the roasting itself has to be done on the mizbeach. Dan Rabbi Yehuda Rav. So it's because Rabbi is the name of Rav. So we'll say first wide line of the Gemara. Evarim shetzlaan vehelon ein ba mishum reach. If the pieces of the animal were roasted elsewhere and then only then put on the mizbeach, ultimately again there's no reach. The reach itself, Rabbi Osai tells me that the initial roasting of the carbon has to be done on the mizbeach itself. Michoach, it has to be pleasing. L'shem hanochas ruach lashem. We'll say it has to be done for the sake of giving nachas ruach, for the sake of giving nachas to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, l'shem misha amar v'haya ha'olam, for the sake ultimately again for the intention of He who created the world. Good, beautiful. Rashi says hanachas ruach, nachas ruach l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu she'amar v'na'as seritzono. We'll say the greatest nachas ruach, the greatest nachos that we give HaKadosh Baruch Hu is when ultimately again we fulfill His will. So the Gemara goes weiter. Amr Rav Yehuda Rav. We'll say Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav. Chatos sheshachta l'shem ola psula l'shem chulin kshir. We'll say here comes a fascinating halacha. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav. Therefore, if you have to give a carbon chatos, if you shecht the chatos l'shem ola, so you're shechting it with the kavana for the wrong carbon, then psula, the carbon is possible. So we'll say if you shecht a chatos l'shem ola, the carbon is possible. L'shem chulin, if you shecht the carbon chatos l'shem chulin, then guess what? Kshera. In fact, the carbon is kosher. We'll say, what's the logic? So what a counterintuitive idea. If I shecht the carbon chatos for the sake of another carbon, for the sake of an ola, so the carbon is possible. If I shecht the carbon chatos l'shem chulin for something just non-consecrated, then what? Then the halacha is the carbon is kosher. What's the logic? I'm Rabbi Lazar, my time of the Rav. What's the logic behind that? Because the pasuk says v'lo yichalalu es kodshei b'nei Yisrael. Because the pasuk says you shall not profane the karbonos of Klal Yisrael. Kodshim mechalalin kodshim. See, Rabbi say one carbon could be mechalal another carbon. Ve'in chulin mechalalin kodshim. But chulin cannot deconsecrate kodshim. So I'll say, so what does that mean? Take a look at Rashi. Rashi says, "V'lo yichalalu." It's 4 lines from the bottom of Rashi. "V'lo yichalalu ein davar acher mechalal es kodshim." So I'll say, "Ella mi mechalalo kodshim, ella mi mechalalo kodshim mechalalin kodshim." Kedinaf galon debemachshava shaloshua mischalim mivashachas osalachadas. So it's actually amazing. So the halacha is, I will say, if something is kodesh, having in mind for chulin does not in any way deconsecrate the item. Having in mind for chulin does not in any way go ahead and erode the sanctity of the item. But however, having in mind for the wrong sanctity could go ahead and erode the sanctity. We'll say it's an incredible idea. So again, taking a carbon and having in mind l'shem chulin does not deconsecrate it. Because again, we'll say you can't deconsecrate something that is consecrated. But erroneous consecration absolutely could go ahead and deconsecrate. Therefore, again, if I have a chatos that I shecht l'shem ola, or what was it? Yeah, chatos l'shem ola, we'll say that is problematic. But a chatos l'shem chulin, ultimately, again, that chulin designation does not deconsecrate the chatos, and therefore the carbon is perfectly good. So I'll say, so now let's analyze this. Rabbi Gemara asks on this statement, Masiv Rabba Am Rabbi Yossi, Af mishalo haya balibo, l'shem echad mikolelu. So I'll say, ultimately, again, so let's analyze this a little bit. So Rabbi Yossi, Af mishalo haya balibo l'shem echad me'elu. So I'll say, so remember again, now we're going back to the Mishnah. What did the Mishnah say? Mishnah gave me the list of things that I have to have in mind when going ahead and offering up a carbon. So remember again, then what did the Mishnah say? Rabbi Yossi said, even if one didn't have in mind for any of these things, the carbon is still kosher. Why? Shutanai Bezdin. Ultimately, again, because Bezdin essentially legislated that it's as if that I had in mind for all of these things. So watch this. So the Gemara says, so Av Mishlaya believe l'shem echad mikol elu kosher. Why? Shutanai Bezdin. Because ultimately, again, we'll say it's a Tanai Beis. So we'll say what the Gemara seems to be saying over here is as follows, which is that it's a Tanai Beis Din, that it's as if I had the machshavas, that even if I had no explicit intent for anything, the Tanai Beis Din makes it as if I did have the explicit intent. Now, the Gemara's understanding of this concept is as follows: Taima shalo haya balibo klal. Now what Rabbi Yossi seems to be saying is as follows. The Mishnah tells me 6 things that I'm supposed to have in mind when I go ahead and offer up a carbon. And what does Rabbi Yossi say? Even if I don't have in mind any of these things, it's as if what? It's as if what? I did have it in mind. Now, the reason this seems to work is because I have no kavanas. So Rabbi Yossi says, it's okay, no kavanas. No kavanas, we make it as if what? As if you had kavanas. Taima shelo haya balibo klal. The reason Rabbi Yossi's concept works is because if my mind is one blank slate, as many minds are, right? If my mind is one blank slate, it's okay. If it's blank, Tanai Beis Din says, it's as if all of the Tanaim are there. Ha-haya balibo l'shem chulin. What I can infer from this is what? That if I had in mind for the wrong things, right? Let's say, instead of having a mind that's a blank slate, instead I have in mind l'shem chulin, puzzle. That makes it sound like what? That's not good. That contradicts what we just said before. What did we just say before? That if you have a chatos that you offer up l'shem chulin, that it's good. So right, that it's good. And both sides seems to contradict. Again, remember, Rabbi Yossi seems to be saying that halacha l'maisa, as long as my mind is that tabla rasa, that's fine. The Tanai Beis Din says that I've had the right kavanas. But if I actively have the wrong kavana, b'pashas, that shouldn't work. That contradicts what we just said before. Because before we just said that if you shech techatos l'shem chulin, in fact, it works. To which the Gemara says, not necessarily. Dilma lo haya klal kasher. Excuse me. Dilma lo haya klal kasher maratza. Right? So maybe we see like this. Maybe if you have absolutely no kavanas at all, then what? Then Rabbi Yossi says, tonight Beis Din makes it as if you had the right kavanas, and the carbon is kosher, and what? And what? Is miratza. Satisfies your obligations. Ha haya balibo l'shem chulin. But it will say if a person had in mind ultimately again l'shem chulin, then what? Kosher, the carbon is kosher, ve'ino miratza. We'll say maybe what we said before, that if you shecht a chatos l'shem chulin, what that means we'll say is what? The carbon is kosher, but ino miratza means what? It doesn't satisfy your obligation. Maybe that's the distinction. If you have no kavanas, so then what? The carbon is kosher and satisfies your obligation based on the Tanai Beis Din. If you had wrong kavanas, like a chatos l'shem chulin, then what? Then Allah says the carbon is kosher, maybe it doesn't satisfy your obligation. To which the Gemara says, no. Amar Rabbi Lazar, chatos sheshachta l'shem chulin kshera mishum chulin psula. So what's that? To which the Gemara now says something dramatically amazing. And to which the Gemara says, Rabbi Lazar is going to come along and say in advance a different interpretation. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to stop over here for today. We'll pick up with this Rabbi Lazar Mir Hashem tomorrow, but just understand where we're leaving off. Where we're leaving off over here is actually quite a dramatic place. We have Rabbi Yossi telling me that ultimately, again, don't worry about having kavanas. Tanai Beis Din makes it as if you had all the right kavanas. Now we have to figure out what does that mean. Because it will say that sounds like as long as I have no kavanas, it's as if I had all of the kavanas. The problem is you just have a statement before that says what? That Allah L'maisa, if I shecht my chatos l'shem chulin, then ultimately again, the chatos is still good. If I shecht l'shem shalom, that's a problem. We're going to have to try to figure out what? What does it mean when we say it's still good? What's the status ultimately of that chatos? And ultimately again, how does that fit into the Mishnah? We'll see tomorrow.